Welcome back to Her Next Move. On this episode, I want to talk about building the first half of your career and designing the second. Hey everyone. I haven't recorded a podcast in quite a while, and I think it's been pretty intentional, aside from day to day, everything busy and work. I've been in more of a reflecting season lately and less of a talking season. Lately, I've been thinking about seasons in your career and especially the difference between the first and the second half of your career. And, that's not necessarily based on your age, but it's based on experience. And there's a version in the real estate business that's about proving, and there's a version that's about protecting. The first half of your career is fueled by ambition, and ambition's really powerful, as you know. But in the beginning, you're building your skill and you're excited and everything's new and building your reputation and you have something to prove. You're building your stamina and figuring out how it all works. And let's be honest, hustle works. And it worked for me. It worked well. But I hustled. And you can stay in that hustle cycle for a really long time. But if you stay in the business long enough, the questions start to change. And you start thinking, what happens if I slow down? And what happens if the market shifts? And what happens if my energy shifts? And what am I building beyond just transactions? So, production is what builds income, but structure is what builds durability. And durability starts to matter much more in the second half, at least for most people. When you are someone who's experienced instability at any point in your life, durability begins to speak to you differently. And you don't assume that tomorrow is going to look like today. And you don't assume that things last forever and the momentum can change. And you also don't assume that someone is responsible for your security. And so you build differently. Some people build because they want more, others build because they remember what it feels like to not have enough. Sometimes people push really hard for different reasons. But, there's two very different and big motivations, and they create different strategies, of course. So, something else I noticed, not just in myself, but watching other agents over the years, is that they have patterns. So, some agents never leave that first half energy and they stay in that strategy their entire career. So they're always chasing volume, they're always chasing recognition, they're always chasing the next deal, and they're still trying to prove at age 50 or 55 what they were trying to prove at age 35. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And it works. And some people are happy living right there. But it's exhausting and it's also fragile. So you take that into account. There's also the other agents who hit a point where something inside them shifts and they don't need to prove anything anymore. And they've already built something and they start thinking about protection and structure. And they might not say it out loud, but you can definitely see who those people are. And I've noticed something else that the ones who have experienced instability at some point, they think differently and they don't chase things the same way and they care about what lasts and what feels right. Um, there's another thing too that I've been thinking about in this season of reflection, and it's fear of slowing down, fear of fading and not being relevant, fear of market shifting, fear of being replaced. And that's usually when structure becomes more interesting to someone than just the applause and the accolades. So, what is the second half really about? I think it's really about choices and leverage and protecting your energy, your peace, having control over things, and the architecture of what that all looks like. So the second half's not about proving that you can win anymore. It's about building something that doesn't disappear if you stop pushing. And a lot of agents are afraid to stop pushing because they say you're only as good as your last deal. And I think in the second half, you start caring less about the applause and you care more about the control. So less about volume and more about compounding things. And like I said, it's not about age, it's about experience. And when you've built something from nothing, and if you've carried the weight on your own, and if security hasn't always been guaranteed for you, and that definitely makes you think differently about how you run your business. And, you just build it differently. And that's not something that everyone understands, but anyone who's ever lived that, then they definitely understand. So, I think once you've experienced instability at any point, you're looking for more of a protection and you build for peace and for freedom. And I guess that's what this season has really been for me. It's less talking, it's less loud, and it's more reflective and less proving things, more protecting. So the first half has build my skill, the second half is building more structure, and I am beyond grateful to be in a season where I can actually see the difference. Thanks for listening to Her Next Move. Click subscribe to be notified when the latest episode is released. Also, check out juliejohnson.group for more resources and free downloads. And remember, your power, your potential, your next move.